Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we're going to head over to California on the west coast of the United States once again, and this is actually quite a well established Californian brewery. So we're going to go to Bear Republic, who are from a little town called Healdsburg, which is to the north of Santa Rosa in the Napa Valley region. Of course that's to the north of San Francisco, but we're going to have a taste of the Red Rocket Ale today, and this is meant to be one of the best American amber ales that you'll ever come across. It's rated as number 4, I think, on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate in the style, so it should be a very, very good beer. And this is the first time I'm actually encountering one of their beers or reviewing it on the channel for you here, so I'm quite excited to do this one for you today because I know it will be a very, very good beer. So as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll take you through a very brief history of the brewery. It will only be a minute or two long, but if you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the description for you below, along with a link to my other reviews that hopefully I can add from Bear Republic in the fairly near future. So anyway, to tell you about the company, as I mentioned to you before, Bear Republic are based in Healdsburg in California, which is a little bit to the north of Santa Rosa, and of course that's in the Napa Valley region, which is to the northeast-ish of San Francisco. But the brewery was founded in 1995 by the Norgrove family, who are 3rd and 4th generation Sonoma County residents, and the original brew pub opened in 1996, and it's located on the corner of the historic Healdsburg downtown square. But they opened a new and larger brewery called Factory 5 in Cloverdale, which is about 50 minutes up the road from Healdsburg, and these guys are recognised as being the 39th largest craft brewery in the US by the American Brewers Guild. So one of the more established Californian breweries, I would say, probably up there with the likes of Firestone Walker and things like that. Quite well known, and their beers are supposed to be very good, but they didn't have too much information about the family that run the brewery. It would have been quite interesting to know that, but maybe I'll send my video over to them and they can give me a little bit more. But as I say, a very, very good brewery, so that's the most important thing. Just to list a few of the other beers you can get from these guys, in the regular range there's the Racer 5 IPA, which is supposed to be an awesome IPA, one of the most decorated American craft beers apparently. They've got Gran Am, which is another IPA, Red Rocket, which, as I told you, is an American amber, Hop Rod Rye, Big Bear Black Stout, Peter Brown Tribute Ale, Hop Shovel, and also El Oso. In their seasonal range they've got 4 of these: Apex, Mach 10, Cafe Racer 15 and Racer X, all supposed to be very good as well. And they've also got various barrel aged beers and draft speciality ones, which you can only get in the brew pub. So go and check out the brewery website, like I said, and you will get an idea of the various different beers they've got. There was a whole list of these ones that are exclusive, but they've got quite a small bottle range, but we can get quite a few of these over here in Scotland now, so I should review more of these for you in the future. But anyway, we'll get on to the tasting of this guy now, so I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little look at the artwork on this guy. It's quite nicely done. It's a 6.8% American amber ale, I should point out, but it's quite simple artwork and I think it works really well. I'll just put the light down so that the camera focuses on that a little bit, but as you can see, it's quite nicely presented and quite simply done. The bottle cap on this one, as you can see, has a bear on it. I'm not sure how well you can see that with the light and just because it's silver, but it's very nicely presented, and it doesn't really have a back label on it, this one, but it tells you a wee bit on the side. It says Red Rocket Ale is a bastardised Scottish style red ale packed with distinctive flavours and an aggressive hop character rivaled by none. This unfiltered, bottle conditioned amber coloured ale breaks all style moulds, and the brewmaster notes, as it says, keep refrigerated, beer is perishable, real ale is alive, yeast is good, serve at 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, and I have no idea what temperature that actually is. I'm guessing if you're on an American amber ale you want to serve at about 4 or 5 degrees normally, but it tells you on the side, yeah, it says Sonoma County Ales, and yeah, it's quite nice. I get a 5-cent refund if I take this back to the shop in a few different states, but I'll take it back empty obviously. So a 6.8% American amber ale from Sonoma County in California. So without further ado, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting here. So as you can see, a nice smoky opening there. Nice, really kind of coppery colour coming out with this one. You can smell the fruit off it as you're pouring it out here. I got this bottle, I believe, from the Brewdog bar in Aberdeen, which was one of my regular haunts during my 5 years there for university, so it looks a really nice beer. So I'll just bring up the light and let you see the colour of this. I would describe this as being, it actually really does look like a Scottish red beer. I'm not sure how well in the light you can see if I just put the light over the camera and let it focus there. It is a nice sort of coppery, slightly mahogany colour, but if you hold it under the light, it's actually got quite a bright red edge to it, so it looks really nice. There's a good little bit of sediment just floating around in it there as well, and if I put my fingers behind it you can see it's not really transparent at all, but there was just about a half finger of a frothy kind of cream coloured head, and that's just kind of fading away to be a very thin foamy layer. But it looks really nice, and I can smell the fruit off this without even paying too much attention to the aroma. So let's have a proper look at this now. It's actually, it smells really boozy. It actually smells like a Scotch ale, which is quite interesting. And a red, the one thing I would point out is a Scottish red beer has nowhere near the aroma that this guy has, but it actually really does smell, just without paying too much attention, it does smell quite like a Scotch ale. So you've got a nice kind of dark caramel and roasted toffee malt in there, and there's a big bready character to this as well. But you can pick up a nice kind of pine resin from the hops too, and there's a definite kind of floral and aromatic character coming out. But there's a good, the thing that's interesting about this one is for a Scotch ale, because you would never expect it in a Scotch ale, is that you can pick up a little bit of citrusy fruit and also some kind of, it's a kind of orangey that's coming out of it, a juicy orange. But at the same time there's a little bit of grapefruit, but then on top of that you've got the typical kind of stone fruits, you know, kind of figs and a little bit of raisins and plum, but I think it's more figgy. The raisin and plum aroma to me always comes out a little bit sharper, but this is a very nice smelling beer. So without further ado, let's get on with the tasting of this guy. As I always say, smell your beers before you taste them. And they didn't actually tell me what hops on the website were in this beer, so that's why I didn't say it on this video. I always like it when breweries put the hop and malt profiles, because it lets you get an idea of what you should be smelling and things, and it's a very good way to train your nose and your palate and stuff. So hopefully Beer Republic will add that at some point in the future. But yeah, let's get stuck into this guy. This is the Red Rocket Ale, which is meant to be a bastardised red ale, a Scottish red ale, but it really is an American amber ale apparently. So let's get stuck in. Cheers. Now that's really nice actually. You've got a big malty flavour in this one. A lot of sweet caramel malts that just blanket the middle of the tongue. But underneath that, you've got a nice kind of slightly sweet toasted bread in there. It's really nicely done actually. The aroma on this guy actually smells a little bit more like a kind of treacle or molasses, which is a little bit what you would expect from a Scotch ale, but it comes across as being a bit more of a lighter sweetness, if you like, and then it's more a toasty bread flavour, and that just blankets the middle of the palate, like I say, and you've got a nice kind of sweet, slightly toasted caramel that goes down the middle of the tongue. But yeah, it's really interesting this. You've got a good bitterness from the hops on this guy too. So with that nice big malt character that's sitting there in the middle of the tongue, you've got a nice piney hop character that just goes around the back edges of the tongue, and there's floral and aromatic character in there as well, so that mixes together really well. But there's a lot of good fruitiness coming out of this too. I've had this beer a few months and it's actually aged really nicely. The flavours are very interesting in it. But yeah, the hop character is really quite complex in this one. As I say, you've got some nice piney resins that just seem to underpin a lot of the hops. It's not too prominent, it's not as sharp as some of the pine beers that you can get. Some of them, the pine resin is the really kind of thing that's punching its way forward, but there's a lot of stuff going on in this beer. You've got just a little underlying of pine resins, but I want to say it's the kind of it's the grapefruit flavour is kind of sticking just to the front there, but it's the aromatic and pine resin flavours that are mixing together really well, I think, to underpin the hop characteristic in this one. And the fruit is very interesting as well. So you're getting a little oily bubble that's moving towards the front of the tongue there. And just on that, you're getting a little bit of grapefruit flavour in there, but there is a teeny hint of pine resin. There's maybe a little bit of an orangey flavour in there too, but it's mixed quite well with the sort of grapefruity flavours, and it's that kind of typical one when you've got a sort of citrusy mixing with a tropical flavour, and it's just right behind the very tip of the tongue there, and it's really interesting. The hop character in this is like none that I've ever had before. But yeah, there's a I want to say there's a teeny little bit of an earthy character in here, and that's a typical trait of a sort of Scottish red beer at the same time. That's one thing I really would say that they've done quite well with this. This is a hell of a lot more flavourful than a lot of the Scottish red beers you will find in Scotland, by the way. But there is the hop character on this is really, really good, and I really like these Californian hop forward beers. So there is a kind of earthy character that goes right around the edge of the tongue, and as I say, the pine resin's an aromatic character is just sitting on top of that. You've got a little bit of orange and grapefruit that just pushes towards the front of the tongue, but at the same time, around the very front edges, you're getting just a little bit of a kind of red fruit, and I want to say it's a bit figgy. It's not sharp like a kind of plum or a raisin feel, but that really wouldn't suit this beer if it was like that. It's got a nice kind of slightly figgy flavour that just goes around the front edge of the tongue, but it is very, very mild. As I say, the main components of the hop character in this are the pine resins and the aromatic character. They're not too punchy, but there's a nice earthy character that underlines that, and that gives you a good transition between the bready flavours and the kind of darker toasted caramel flavours that are just in the middle of the tongue. It gives you a very nice bridge between the hops and malt sweetness, and there's just that kind of very mild figgy flavour around the front of the tongue. But it's a beautifully done beer, and for it being a Scottish red beer, it's a hell of a lot more flavourful. It's better than any of the Scottish red beers we get in Scotland, so thumbs up to Beer Republic for that. In terms of the mouthfeel, I'd say it's definitely mid-bodied. It's got quite a lot going on, and there is just a teeny little bit of alcohol warmth too. The carbonation is quite smooth, but at the same time it does have a little bit of a prickle. I think it's bringing out a little bit of the kind of aromatic and pine resin flavours on the hops, and around the, as I say, you're getting that around the back edges of the tongue, and the earthy character is sitting in there as well. But you've got a nice malty sweetness to this, but what I would say is the hoppy bitterness is a little bit more punchy than the hop sweetness in this one. It is more of a hop forward beer. So in terms of the style, as I always say, style isn't too important. What you want is a good tasting beer, but in terms of style, I'd say it is more leaning towards the American amber beer, and the main reason I would say that is because with a Scottish red beer, any of the ones I've tried are nowhere near as flavourful as that. That said, it does have a really nice, it does have the typical malt base that you expect from a red beer. There is a teeny little bit of spice. As you go into the aftertaste on this one, you pick up just a little bit of cereal spice. So it does have a little bit of that in the bready character in the malt base too, which is a typical red beer trait. And then there's the earthy hop character. So it does have traits of a Scottish red beer, but it's a lot more flavourful, and I would be tempted to agree more with Rate Beer and Beer Advocate that it is an American amber ale. But you can talk about styles all day. The main thing is that it's a really, really nice beer. So if you enjoy American amber ales, and you do like a little bit of the kind of earthy hop character and maybe a little bit of a cereal-y element to it as well, it is definitely worth checking out. So it's something that's really quite different. It's a sort of fusion of styles, if you like, so definitely worth checking out. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed my first beer review from Beer Republic. I've enjoyed this one, so I definitely will be having a look at getting some more of their beers, hopefully the Racer 5 and maybe the Stout as well, and I do like American brown ale, so I'll maybe get those three if I can find them. But yeah, please let me know in the comments section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I do have some more Californian beers to review for you in the near future, and hopefully I can get over there and get some of the lesser known ones. But I thank you again for watching my beer reviews, and I will be back soon with more. So catch you soon with those. Cheers.